English translation 25th contact. Monday 16th June 1975, 0146 Cherel.
First of all, I am interested in what came out of your discussion regarding the demonstration. Did you come to an agreement?
Sure, but you will not be very happy about what I have to tell you. I will not carry out the planned demonstration in the form I originally intended. The doubts you have identified clearly indicate that certain people in your group are not yet mature enough to grasp and understand these things. If I was willing, for the time being, to show my ship to your group members and some other people, and to do so in a clearly visible way, then this can no longer be the case now, and perhaps no more in the future. This has now crystallized clearly and unambiguously from the latest events, and it therefore must remain so. Through the Council resolution, I received permission to demonstrate a few things to a somewhat small extent only, but according to very restricted determinations. Due to Hans Jacob's renewed irrelevant and sectarian doubting behavior, it has now also become apparent that I am shielding my now smaller demonstration from view, so it cannot therefore be seen by uninfluenced observers as well that no outsiders may be present at this demonstration as I had originally approved.
I am not happy about that, Simyase. Can you not make an exception? You cannot just sideline everything all of a sudden just because one person has certain doubts.
Unfortunately, no, because this is a decision of the Council which I have to follow.
But
I cannot, because I cannot break our laws.
all right, I do not want to push you to do wrong, and we have to come to terms with the new facts.
Certainly?
Well, I guess I will have to explain it thoroughly to the others. There is indeed no sense in pushing you further.
You are very understanding. But there is one important thing that I have to discuss, and that has been assigned to me by the Council. It is a matter of the total elimination of your knowledge of certain things, whereby all agree to follow any elimination exactly according to your wishes. Your compromise solution has met with very great approval, and it also seems to us to be the best means. Further, however, the fact was criticized that you promised to give lectures, etc., in the form of a clarification from this month on. However, my observations have shown that you have not yet taken any steps to organize these lectures.
You know I am no good at things like this, and I need help.
Sure, but still you have to take everything in hand because time is pressing for different things. If you do not get any help from your group members in this regard, then you still have to take everything in your own hands because clarification has become the most urgent imperative. It is no longer enough for you to spread your knowledge only in your group and in certain other interested circles, because the time has come for the general public to be informed. This means that you now have to make an effort to make your knowledge, etc., known to the lay public through lectures. This has become an urgent requirement. If you have already prepared a lecture, then you must now change it and bring up certain further facts in it. The most important new factor is the destruction of the ozone belt, which is rapidly becoming more and more destroyed. Work out a pamphlet about this and distribute it. Get with it also at newspapers and television, etc., and scream the threatening danger from the roofs. Further, it is to be woven into the lecture that also the atomic danger increased again in enormous measure.
You easily say that, Simyase, because first of all I am criticized for everything I put on paper, because it is supposedly too harshly written. On the other hand, the stupid question is always asked, why would you not help me financially, and so on. Sometimes it is actually kind of sad sometimes, because I find such things simply damn unreasonable. Several times lately, I have been thinking that the best thing to do is just to throw everything away and go about my daily work. Firstly, I will then be rid of my financial worries, and secondly, I will no longer have to deal with illogical questions and so on.
The execution of your task is at your own discretion. If you therefore want to step back, it would be a very bad thing for all of your humanity. But on the other hand, we do not put you under any constraints, so you can decide freely. But please remember that it is solely up to you whether the Earth humanity gains a very important advantage and is able to follow a better path. I know that you think that every human being has to carry his or her own weight, but that is not enough. Remember that only very, very few Earth humans have abilities similar to yours, and they usually do not have the courage to openly present facts. As a human being, it is your duty to spread your knowledge and to help others through it. You knew from the beginning that everything would be very difficult and that you would not be helped very much. So, I think you are a little hasty in considering ending our things.
You have spoken really well.
Let me finish, please. I see that you are angry because success in helping cannot be greatly expected, and much that is illogical is brought to you. But you do not need your anger, because you must understand that your fellow human beings stand tremendously far behind you in consciousness-based form, and must first learn refers to the application of consciousness-based powers, mental powers, as well as to knowledge and the creational spiritual laws and recommendations, etc., spiritual teaching, etc. You know that very well. Human anger is only appropriate where the knowledge of the laws and recommendations and other things is clearly present, and yet everything is disregarded. But ignorance must not arouse anger in you, for it is against the laws. So, for your help, I want to tell you that you should consider everything very carefully and calmly before you make a decision to cancel. Remember that humanity needs your help and that you are able to give it more than any man has ever been able to do before, if we disregard certain prophets who have been disregarded and whose teachings have been falsified. Remember that for about 2,000 years, no Earth human has been chosen for contact with a very high spirit form, and no important message has been transmitted, as is the case with you. Therefore, consider how important you are valued by us and the beings of the high spiritual level, Arahat Athersata, which is not done in vain. You are the first prophet of the modern age, and thus the most important person in your world, for you are the fundamental precursor for the teaching of the new age. You must do the very hard preliminary work for the truth proclaimers who will still work after your time. Think about all this very carefully before you make a decision that only arises from anger. We are well acquainted with the fiery anger in you earthlings, for at all times we have had such problems with you. Many prophets were angry at the ignorance and unreasonableness of their fellow human beings. And often they needed this anger to accomplish their task. But be just, for your anger does not need its existence, because your fellow human beings are ignorant. With regard to the illogical questions concerning financial aid, etc., I would like to make an explanation for the questioners here, because every human being on Earth should bear in mind, firstly, that we do not have any corresponding things to do with goods and means of payment, as they are customary and common on the Earth. Even if we wanted to, we could not serve you with financial means, which you call money because we do not have such goods, etc. We will never influence gambling, etc., because they are of exceptionally evil and sinister values. The third important point is that we do not let ourselves be provoked by speeches and questions, etc., because this earth is your home and not ours. But when we are here and want to help humanity on the earth in its consciousness-based and other development, then this means a self-imposed obligation that we do not let ourselves be made to do things at the order of the earth humans. Our task corresponds to a free-willed undertaking. This is our side, to which your side is added, namely that the earth human has to make an effort himself or herself and to contribute their part to everything. This means that the Earth human also has to take on a certain free-willed undertaking and has to carry certain things himself or herself. It is completely wrong of him or her to think that he or she can only take advantage of help and kindness without contributing anything to this help themselves. The terrestrial human being must learn that his or her selfishness, as well as his or her boundless egoism, are completely out of place and have no justification whatsoever. When the Earth human being is to be helped, he or she himself also has to contribute his part to this help. According to your values, however, this part consists of the procurement of the necessary capital and all necessary work. But if the Earth human being believes that he or she can only take and has nothing to give for it, then he is on erroneous paths. He or she can only defeat his or her evil egoism if he or she realizes that two different factors, forming a unity in themselves, always result in an overall unity. In other words, in this case, this means that give and take must be combined to form one unit. When we give you spiritual and consciousness-based goods and knowledge, etc., then it is your duty to process these goods and knowledge and also to contribute certain things to the attainment of the whole. But if the human being of Earth thinks and acts according to the principle of his or her illogicality, that taking is more beneficial than giving, then he or she will not free himself or herself from his or her evil egoism. And the human being of Earth is selfish, both individually and in the masses, so exploitation is very widespread in your world.
That was damn clear, Simyase.
Sure, but it had to be said.
Never mind, nobody's blaming you. But now to something else, because I have a question in store. What about spiritism? Should we talk to the dead? And is that even possible? I have my own particular view on this, but I do not want to tell you it now. Please explain to me what this is all about, because we have had some discussions about it recently.
Suit yourself. Basically, you Earth humans are very much spiritualistic, but very amateurish and without any appreciable knowledge or success. But more than 99.7% of so-called spiritualist sessions are based on fraud, self-deception, and charlatanry. So wrong things are consciously claimed and underlined by magic tricks and so on. In very, very many cases, there is also self-deception, because the spiritualists are of the wrong opinion that otherworldly beings or deceased people would answer them. A medium of this kind is very susceptible to telepathic vibrations of the subconsciousness, and through this ability taps other people's subconsciousness or storage banks as they experience things that are of the future or past. Uninitiated and ignorant people thus believe that the medium actually has psychic abilities. People are therefore very often amazed when such acts tell them things about themselves or their relatives and about other people whom they themselves had long forgotten and were no longer able to remember. Such a form, by the way, is also practiced by one of your group members, as I have noticed. They live not far from you and have fallen into self-deception. This form of alleged spiritism awakens an evil self-delusion in the medium, which also includes the accompanying persons. Every reality is lost. Such false forms are unfortunately very common and cannot be contained in a short time. Unfortunately, there would never be enough time if I wanted to treat all the different forms of spiritism, if I had to be content with an explanation of the real factor. The ignorant and illogical human should neither practice a simple necromancy nor real spiritism. These things are, firstly, psychologically and consciously very dangerous for the practitioners, because confusions of consciousness can arise, and secondly, they are deceived by all kinds of possibilities, but not by the dead or exploited for jokes. A deceased life form, in the form of the overall consciousness block, possesses in the sphere beyond only the knowledge that it has collected in the material world. If it could then be called from the material world, then it would only be able to discuss and tell what it has just learned in the material world. In particular, the most serious are the points of religious dogma and madness, which allegedly always make deceased life forms visible or audible in the foreground, and thereby mislead the still living evil. This is because delusional religious facts mostly play a dominant role in people's material thinking in their lives. Many deceased persons would not agree with an invocation of their being and would therefore maliciously cheat the still living if they were called. Many would make bad jokes and prophesy wrong things, which could then perhaps also actually apply because the ignorant living would believe in it and would draw the events as with a magnet. But now there is still the form of true spiritism, the knowledge of which, however, only 4 people on the earth are capable of, who are also silent about their abilities. In this form, it is not those who have died who are called upon, but beings of higher forms, and also beings of other spheres. And since these are often very far developed in consciousness-based abilities, they have also laid down many false teachings and have become wise. And these forms of spirits and beings are the only ones that truthfully answer all questions of the living and do not deceive or joke. The fundamental truth of Spiritism in the form of invocation of the dead, etc., is that it would be undesirable, first and foremost, for the deceased and would not be of any use to the living, but only bad. This is the case, as I said, when it concerns the applied Spiritism of the untrue form. Human beings should therefore never have the audacity to summon the dead, because this is pure nonsense and can be damaging to consciousness. A great deal of misery and distress could already be solved in your world by it alone if you would refrain from this evil and misleading false spiritism. Of value is only the spiritism of higher form, in which no dead but higher spiritual spheres or higher beings can be invoked and questioned. But as already said, at the moment there are only 4 people on your earth who are capable of such action. In your so-called pan-European area, however, only one of these 4 real experts currently lives, and I do not have the right to name them.
Thank you, Simyase. Your explanations do not exactly follow my previous thinking, but I am happy to be instructed at any time. If you do not mind, I have a few more questions. I would like...
Unfortunately, I cannot go into this today because I still have various things to do. But you can ask your questions next time.
Of course, whatever you say. But can you at least tell me the time when you want to give your now smaller demonstration?
I already told you that I cannot do that for certain reasons, and that I do not want to give any more details about these reasons. But it will be at that point before I have to go away for a while.